what we're looking at for the first banner. We're going to move on to the second banner now. Ah, this banner. So with this banner, we have some interesting headliners here. I say interesting. Well, Tifa's Premium Heart is an interesting USB. Radiant Shield, which is what her USB provides, is a very strong ability against a wide variety of fights. Or a very strong status, sorry. Whoa. Forgot that Tifa was in Final Fantasy VII for a second. So Meteor Drive is 10 single attacks, grants haste, Radiant Shield, and high regen to all allies. This is actually okay. It is mostly going to be used because Tifa is a monk, you know? So she is one of the Earth type. And so this is going to be a really powerful USB in the Earth Magicite dungeon. However, it could still be strong in other places that are not just Earth. Because granting haste to your party is, you know, it's always a useful thing. Well, not always, but it's still a useful thing to pair up with things. Say you want to bring, God, that would be awful. I'm trying to think about like where you could bring Tifa other than Earth vulnerable bosses that would be good for her. Because just Radiant Shield and just haste isn't enough. I think, well, fire, because she's a monk. And monks get access to some good fire abilities. Hey, no problem, Reika. Monks get access to some good fire abilities, so she could probably attend a team on fire bosses, even though you're doing earth, so you'd be doing non-elemental instead. Just to give the haste and radiant shields, and then she could go into exploiting vulnerability with 5-star monk abilities. And that would be strong-ish. It's not the most optimal option, but I still, at the end of the day, I think it's a lot of compromise to make her work in places that are not Earth-based. Yeah, I think that's a good call, is that Tifa needs a BSB2, and if she gets a BSB2, she could be a very, very strong Earth character. But as it stands, she's pretty good in Earth. This is definitely no Rosa USB, that's for sure. And it is probably one of the strangest equipment icons I've ever seen. My first impression of what this is like a half helmet where the eye holes have green telescopes shooting out of them. And this is supposed to be a fist weapon. Okay. Whose fault is this? Is this Final Fantasy? Because I don't recall Premium Heart looking like this in Final Fantasy VII. Well, anyway, moving on. We know what this does. And this is a known quantity, Eiko's USB. And it is a good quantity. I mentioned it briefly when I was talking about Yuna's USB. But Eiko gets Guardian Mog, which is Instacast, always a good thing. Instacast Medica, better thing. Instacast Medica with Last Stand and Haste. Okay. Really, really good thing. Eiko is the Dispel Mechanic defeater. As recently as the Adamantiid fight, where the boss does a gigantic dispel that does a lot of damage at the same time, you can just, sit there with your Eiko being like, I know it's coming, I know it's coming, I know it's coming, and then bam, hit the button, and the team basically just carries on. The original Premium Heart. Well, it's not only less colorful, it's... The original is a lot less, crazy. I think the telescopes are a little weird still, but... Okay, anyway, I want to move on. Anyways, Eiko's USB is one of the better healer USBs in the game. Instacast Kiraga, Menika is always nice, and the Last Stand is always welcome as well. Instacast Last Stand is a very powerful thing. Next up, we have Noctis, which is a character we have not seen yet, but he will be released on the same day that this banner is released, and that is in 6 days. The OSB itself is okay. It's like a side grade and kind of a downgrade to Orlando's, but Orlando's is super powerful, so that doesn't necessarily mean this is bad. So Noctis's Armiger is a 15.0 multiplier, just like Orlando's. The normal physical multiplier for a OSP is 12.0. He gets his 15.0 because he's completely non-elemental. And here we have regular cast time, and instead of the Thunder God mode that Orlando gets on his, Noctis gets a status called Armiger and Stone Skin 30%. Stone Skin 30% is unfortunate-ish if you ignore the fact that Armiger works off of Stone Skin, and that's where we're going to go take a look at this for a second. It's nice. It's a good thing. I didn't mean to paint it as bad. So what the status does is it gives you attack 30% and a triple cast speed. But it is removed if the user doesn't have any Stone Skin. So the point that you're trying to show here is that you want to use his OSB and then maintain Stone Skin somehow, whether through casting his OSB again, or through other means like Ishtola or Iris when she eventually gets hers. Right, 30% is very low and can often be removed with one attack, which means this status is suspect because it may not even last a turn. The advantage here is that eventually Stone Skin 30% isn't the only status for Stone Skin. And there will be a Stone Skin 100% entered into the game. And it belongs to somebody named Noctis. And that generates a combo. We have Noctis's USB, which will be released in an estimated unfortunate 4 months, and that's going to affect my evaluation of this relic. 10 single attacks grants X Royal Power and Stone Skin 100% to the user. X Royal Power works in this as similar and not as strong way as Armiger, but it also only stays in effect as long as you have a percentage of Stone Skin available on you. So what you'd actually want to do with Noctis if you had both of these relics is use his OSB and then overwrite your Stone Skin on the next turn, because you do have triple cast speed, so it does help you get out this So you either life siphon up to 2 bars or you get entrusted. And then you overwrite your Stone Skin 30% with Stone Skin 100%. And then you have both Armiger and X Royal Power working for you with 0 duration. They will work infinitely as long as you have Stone Skin active. And then as long as you can maintain your Stone Skin 100% through recasting your USB, then you're in God mode. Because Royal Power is very powerful. Armiger is even more powerful. Both of those together is just disgusting. So that's a combo. However, that's a long ways out, and unfortunately for this banner, Sword of the Father appears on a Final Fantasy 15 banner, the first Final Fantasy 15 banner that will be released in about 2 months, on a banner with a lot of really good Noctis things on it. So this may be a suspect place to get this from if you planned on investing in Noctis. However, there is the option of picking up his OSB here and, using it sparingly, because it's not all that great by itself. Stowing it in the bank and keeping it in mind for when his USB is eventually released in the next major festival. Ignoring the existence of Superfest and it occurs on the 30th anniversary festival. So this would combo well with his USB that occurs there. But on the Final Fantasy 15 banner in 2 months, which is much closer, this occurs, and it occurs with a lot of other good things that make Noctis good. So it depends on what direction you'd want to go in with him, and whether or not this is a good thing for you to find here. The relic itself is just completely blank and not that good to have dupes of, unfortunately. Is the low cast speed adequate compensation for no soul break generation due to stone skin? Yes. Yes. Especially given the fact that he is one of the prime Omega Drive users. And Omega Drive, being a 6-star, has a 70 soul break point. Casting that quickly is going to use a lot of hones of a very hard to hone ability, but still powerful, because you're going to be using an R5 Light Siphon on him too, and you're going to want to loop some of those in there, because Noctis works best, because I don't think Noctis has a bad soul break. Noctis works best when you're just using soul breaks, and then working in Omega Drives when you can. Yeah, he is nice. He is fun with Cloud's Ultra, that's very true. I agree. Well, I mean, I still think he's powerful, and not for his sake that I wish he was Celerity, but for the purpose of the game, I wish he was Celerity, because that would give us more use for stuff like Dervish and Ripper Rush. Those are going to be good abilities, or well, at least Ripper Rush is going to be a good ability anyway. But right, his BSB has a command too that can Smart Ether, and that helps out with the Omega Drive and Dervish usage, but he has an LMR that gives him dual cast combat, so you pretty much want to use Omega Drive with him. It's the same situation that you run into with Cloud and his USB. Okay, so anyway, that's that. This may be a very good thing for you to pick up if you don't plan on playing on the Final Fantasy 15 banner, and you still want a good Noctis, but keep in mind that this is 2 6-star relics that you need to assemble this combo. And not such a good pickup if you plan on playing on the Final Fantasy 15 banner, because dupe potential on a banner that probably you shouldn't have dupes on is unfortunate. Anyway, the 4th 6-star we have on this banner is an unwelcome guest, as far as I'm concerned, in this festival. Cloud's Ragnarok. This is for people that are going to be pulling on the Cloud USB banner, I guess. I mean, this sucks, man. What is this doing here? What did this knock off again? Like, this wasn't a good banner to begin with in Japan. It was probably the worst of the festival, and it's the worst of our festival. But what did this knock off? Right, Maria's OSB. Jesus. Which would have been a really nice thing to have on a banner with Maria's BSB on it. Come on. This is such a dick move, playing, because, I don't know, I mean, I understand why they did it, because Cloud sells. Yeah, Maria probably doesn't, even though, like, from an effectiveness standpoint, you would totally rather Maria's OSB here rather than Cloud's, especially because Maria can make more usage of her OSB than Cloud can, because Cloud gets a USB that allows him to break the damage cap anyway, so, I mean, his OSB is just is, you know, it's the usage scenario for his OSB is just so reduced if you have his USB anyway. This is just, I don't know. No thanks. But anyways, moving on, and that was kind of a bad lineup for the 6 stars. This is a conditional win. This is probably not a win for even the people that like Cloud. This is definitely the best 6 star. And this is an okay Earth Fist. But moving on, we actually move into a category with some decent burst soul breaks in it, with Maria's BSB. Which is one of the 3 scaling mage BSBs, which already, English fail, already means it is good. Adia and Papalimo agree that 9 times out of 10, these bursts are amazing. So she just gives herself attach burst, or attach earth. One of these days I'll figure out a way for chat to add to my English count. We have Meteor, and this is why it's good. It's the scaling command. 3, 4, 5, 6 single attacks depending on your magic. And Marie has the lowest threshold. The threshold isn't that hard to meet for mages now any day, but she does have the lowest, so I guess it makes sense because you're in Final Fantasy 2, and you may not have as much synergy for her. That doesn't really make sense because we fight in so few Final Fantasy 2 stuff anyway. So I don't even know what I'm talking about. Anyway, this command is awesome and can do up to 60,000 damage. And because of the way it is created and getting her magic up to, which is essentially like 10 or 20 off the soft cap, you're going to be doing a whole lot of damage versus resistance, or versus vulnerability. And she, to top it all off, has Stitch in Time as her second command to self-buff herself. So, yeah. And she has White Magic 3 access, so she can self-faith as well. If this 10.32 ever sounds daunting to you, it shouldn't. Because you're probably going to be hitting with 6 with her. Anyway, it's one of the most powerful mage bursts in the game. Yeah, I'm sure my bot does too. I just need to find it. So, really good if you're feeling the burn on earth damage, I suppose. It's magical earth, so that's unfortunate. However, like I said, she's pretty good at self-buffing. So as long as you have, even if you're running on a magic team, or a physical team, if you've got an attack magic buff in the party, someone like Onion Knight, which also appears on this banner, then she could easily be slotted onto a physical team and still be effective. Next up, we have one of the premier attach, or an element bursts in the game, Refia's Sure Gloves. Which is one of those interesting bursts that gets an added free effect on its entry. See, as we talked about with Maria, she had haste, attach earth, and burst mode, and damage on the entry. Refia gets an added effect called Dance of Carnage. It's a status that gives the character plus 50% chance, or not plus 50%, that's incorrect. It gives her a 50% chance to inflict critical hit. Pretty good in its own right, and even better when you consider what her commands are. Refia's commands for Dance of Carnage are, first command is 4 single attacks, sure, and the critical hits deal 100% more damage instead of 50. Really, really powerful. Combined with her Dance of Carnage on entry, really powerful. And the second command gives her Dark Bargain in case you need extra attack. But anyway, this is a really simple burst. You use it, and then you deal a lot of damage. And it's further increased by stuff. It just does a lot of damage. Would Refia BSB stack with Echo BSB? No, it would not, because Dance of Carnage is a crit fix. So the 50% crit rate that is bestowed by Echo's BSB would just overwrite the Dance of Carnage. They do not stack. They are not plus crit percentage. They are crit percentage. When you're looking for stuff that actually stack crit percentage, you're thinking stuff like the unreleased Burning Rush ability for Fire Monk. And this is going to be something that Refi is probably going to be using in the future. Low multiplier, but it has a plus 20% critical chance on use. So this would, in use in conjunction with her BSB, be a 70% critical chance. However, you would never use this in a situation where you have burst mode active with Refia, because her first command is just so much more powerful due to the fact that critical attacks deal 50% more damage than usual. Or they deal 100% more damage instead of 50. This is more for use with her USB, which is also unreleased. Yes. Now you're on, Daddy. Ramza's Super Soul Break 2 chant increases crit damage. Would, I believe, stack with her first command for a further plus 50% damage. Additive bonus. It's just it's a little overkill at that point, because when Refia crits, she's probably hitting for 10,000. The only situation that I would like a crit damage increase for Refia would be when I'm summoning in Cloud's USB. Yep, that's the only difference, Raccoon. Refia has the not so bad problem of running into cap issues. So by increasing her damage, you're actually not doing all that much, because you're probably hitting 10,000 anyway, and increasing damage over cap doesn't actually increase your damage. Yes, yeah. You would Refia Burst, because that would set your crit to 50%, and then RW in Cloud's USB, because then that would reset your crit to 100%, and then you'd start going crazy. I think a buff that would be more useful to Refia would be, instead of, well, besides Cloud's USB, because that's a whole different bag of worms, would be increasing the speed in which she can attack instead of giving her extra damage. That's how you buff Refia's attack. Something like Ramza's USB, which grants the entire team Instacast 1 or Realms USB, or Noctis's Super Soul Break, etc. Those are very good soul breaks for someone like Refia. Okay, so that's really powerful, and that's really powerful. So 2 bursts in, and we're already liking what we're seeing. Vivi's Flame Staff, I mean, I understand that the Final Fantasy IX event is active, and Vivi's BSB2 is on there, and I guess you don't want both of these active. You wouldn't want this to be his BSB2 and have them both, in the same area. But, I mean, they just did practically the same thing with Lightning's USB, so... Vivi's BSB1 is not that good. His BSB2 is. This is probably best used as a plus fire staff, while the burst isn't. And we're going to go take a look at it just because. Proof of Existence. Cool name, but unfortunately, so we get group attacks, attached fire, typical. But Proof of Existence is the standard burst. 4 single, 2 group, nothing special. The commands, the element, it's all just plain. Yeah, it's not that good. I mean, it's better than just a mage casting Chain Faraga, but it's still, there's a lot of things in the game that, you know, can overtake it in value, especially his Burst Soul Break 2. Would have much rather seen that here. Because his Burst Soul Break 2 trades the attach, which is fine, and gives him multi-elemental instead. Oh no, it trades the attach for a party buff, which is magic and resistance plus 30% to the entire party, which is a nice addition instead of attach, as well as being multi-elemental on its primary command. Well, even if that command is only 8.72, I guess that's not bad. I mean, his regular burst is 8.96, right? No, that's not bad at all. And the second command grants him Stitch in Time too, so he actually can magic stack himself before using his first command. So, I mean, that sucks. I don't think it would have been out of line to include his BSB2 here. But they didn't do it. That sucks. Tifa's BSB... I mean, Tifa's BSB is the physical Earth equivalent of Vivi's. I don't even have to go and look at it. It is exactly the same. It grants her an Earth and gives her a 4-hit command and a 2-hit area of effect command. It makes more sense here because we have her USB, but would I really use both of these in conjunction? No. I think she's a much better character against an Earth boss with her USB using 5-star abilities than she would be with just her burst. So this is just... What this is to me is a really old burst that's thrown onto the banner and doesn't really work with even the one thing that does occur from Tifa here. The other thing that occurs from Tifa. So here are 2 very old and weak bursts that are spoiling this part of the banner that we started out so well with Maria and Refia. Yeah, oh man. I've made that mistake with those few bursts that do screw that up. Well, like I mentioned, Exosoul. What do you think this is? And this is a much higher chase value relic than Vivi's BSB2. Yes, it is Serial Nuker. It's from Xenogears. Anyway, next up we do have a return to good bursts with Onion Knight's Burst Soul Break. I think a lot of people know about this one already, but... Vessel of Fate grants haste, attack, and magic plus 30%. This just enables your parties, you know? It allows you to use things that you normally wouldn't be able to together. It's just this is the glue. And that's why it's so good. It's just a very, very powerful support burst. And allows you to do a lot of magical damage. Not nearly as much physical, but at least it's there. I think if I'm running Onion Knight as physical, you're probably relying more on his ability usage. But if you can help it, you'd probably want to run him as magical instead. Because this is an actual high damage ability, because that instant magical attacks 1. For the similar reasons as I talked about Sid Reigns. Unfortunately, there's no damage component to Onion Knight's Burst Soul Break, so you can't recast it instantly like you can with Sid Reigns. Anyway, it's a brief talk on Enya Knight's Burst Soul Break, but don't let that fool you into thinking that it's not powerful. It is a very powerful burst. So next up we have Prish's Burst Soul Break, which is an interesting looking icon. At least it looks like it does something, unlike Tifa's. So it grants her quick monk abilities 5 instead of an element because Prish is a non-elemental character. And that is a very important thing for Prish because of the way her burst commands work. She gets 3, 4, 5, or 6 single attacks at 0.8 each. That's a fairly high multiplier. At 1, 2, or 3 different monk abilities used, and it resets. So the way this iteration, yeah, it's an iteration, works, is if you have used 0 monk abilities before using it, you will do 3 attacks at 0.8 multiplier. If you've used 1, you will get 4, and so on, until you've used 3 different monk abilities, and then you get 6. So the point here is to use monk abilities using that quick monk attacks that you're getting on the entry, as well as this, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, the commands themselves are monk abilities. So you load her up with 2 monk abilities, and you use Dark Bargain, and then use those 2 monk abilities, and then you use this to hit with the 6 attacks. And then you reset, and then I don't really know how you do it from there. There's probably some mathcraft involved in this. It is a high damage burst. I think the problem here that I have is that it asks too much just for non-elemental damage. The 6.8 is a 4.8 multiplier. So that's high. I mean, that's high. But I take issue with the fact that it's non-elemental in a world where we have good non-elemental options at 5-star. Namely, the celerity ability, Ripper Rush, which will eventually be released. You're already using an iteration mechanic for her burst, so you already don't mind traveling down the path that it takes you to get to 13 attacks. And Ripper Rush doesn't reset. Once you hit 13 attacks, you're doing 7 attacks every time you use this. At a faster cast speed, because that's 1.2, right? Yeah, and Prish gets 1.65, so a faster cast speed, just as much damage. Remember, we said 4.8 for Prish at max, while Ripper Rush is 4.76, though you do get the quick monk attacks, so that's worth considering. I just think Prish is weird and requires a lot of pageantry to make her work. So while I think this could be a high damage non-elemental option, I just think that there's some really powerful alternatives in the game. And when those alternatives lie in 5-star abilities, that sends off some warning signals to me. I guess if you're okay with investing in Lifebane, which can be a pretty powerful ability for Prish to use, she is the Lifebane monk. And if you're okay with investing in Lifebane, then I can see her burst being quite powerful and a good alternative to the other strong non-elemental options. The first two that pop into my head would be Zell and Noctis. Useful in Magicite dungeons, yes. Non-elemental characters, as long as you deal enough damage, yes, they can be useful in Magicite dungeons. Well, no. Epic, I highly disagree with that. No, it does not need 13 offensive actions. That is not how Ripper Rush works. Yeah, that is not how Ripper Rush works. So, one of the people that popped in my mind when I thought about who could be better than Prish would be Zell. With his Duelist BSB, which also occurs in this festival. It does 10 random attacks and grants critical 50% to the party. That's 10 random attacks. That's 10 hits on the Ripper Rush. That's 10. Right, I did make note of that, Exosoul. So what you're doing here with Zell is, if you Life Siphon 3 times, and then use Duelist, you've already got your 13 hits. Which Reddit thread? If it's 13 actions, then the ability is junk. It's one of the worst abilities in the entire game. Yeah. Alright. Though it is a 40% upvoted post. That may just be people that were unhappy finding out about it. Jesus. Well, the ability went from being good to being completely useless. You probably need more confirmation, but... Wow. Whew. I still think Zell's a better non-elemental character with his burst than her. Just not as good as he was. So this is a good burst. I didn't want to dump on it too bad because it is good. But if I wanted to use it to its full effectiveness, it would require honing Life Bane, which I feel like a lot of people English. Not a lot of people would be too thrilled about doing. So if that's true about Ripper Rush, which characters and relics does that downgrade the most? Honestly, nobody. The best combo, I guess Zell. The best combo that I could think of was Zell's BSB plus that. Bursts. Instacast bursts, Raccoon. Like Zell's Burst Soul Break. And his ability to use instacast commands. Yeah. I mean, it's just terrible. That really deflated me. Alright, so that is the Burst Soul Break section. We came up with 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 good bursts in here. And Super Soul Breaks is, at least Eternal Staff works well with Onion Gauntlets. By itself, you're not going to be using this. However, it can be valuable in some fights because of that 40% max HP Medica to the entire team is actually useful. And this is another good thing to pick up if you don't plan on pulling on the Final Fantasy VI banner with Celeste's BSB2. No, I don't hate you. I don't hate you. Someone had to be the messenger. The dream had to be popped, and I'm glad it was popped before the ability came out. Though I probably would have experimented with it myself before honing it. So we got Excalibur for Celeste here, which is a really good Super Soul Break. It's always going to be good, because it's one of the very few sources of Grand Cross in the game, which is the Mage Tank status. So what Celeste's BSB2 does is it grants Grand Cross to her, as well as doing some non-elemental damage, which taunts all BLK and WHT attacks. And WHT, while you usually consider those to be heals, a lot of the time some statuses, like a single target dispels, or a single target slows and stops, generally use the WHT type, so it is actually valuable for those purposes as well. And it absorbs those BLK or WHT attacks and restores 1 consumed ability use, which is a really nice thing on Celeste, because she has access to 2 6-star abilities that are very good. One considerably better than the other in Snow Spell Strike. So that's a really nice thing if you have no intention of seeking out Celeste's BSB2. So, good complementary to Onion Gauntlets, and just good. Good to have. How do we feel about the banner overall, though? Physical Earth, it's not bad. This is a very good healer burst, or healer USB, for just about anybody. This is a healer that you're going to bring to some fights just because some fights have mechanics where this works perfectly for it. And she's still a good healer with it elsewhere as well. I talked briefly about when Sword of the Father would be a good pull. And if you plan on pulling on the Final Fantasy 15 banner, that will be occurring in about a month and a half to 2 months, then this is not up your alley, and it is not up my alley, because I plan on pulling on that. This is just not good. What would I pull on? These 2 bursts are among the best in the game at their elements. So that's pretty nice. These 2 are exactly the opposite. And Onion Gauntlets is a chase relic, and it deserves it. I wouldn't be too thrilled with getting this. But it can do a hell of a lot of non-elemental damage in the right situations. And these are 2 decent Super Soul Breaks. Overall, because I feel so weird about the top of the banner, I think... I don't know, does a lot of this hinge on... This is such a sore spot. I don't know, I think it is the weakest banner in the festival. We'll put it that way. They have a habit of throwing the Onion Gauntlets on the weakest banner in the festival. That happened at Christmas, too. I could see situations in which this would be a strong banner for people to pull on, though. You want something for Cloud. This and this are good. You just want to steer clear of these. That. I just think with the quality of some of the banners in this festival, this one just it drags behind. Yeah, I don't know. Cloud cells. That's my only idea. They don't care about people that say, hey, I'd really like Maria's OSB if I had her BSB. So that will make me pull for this on this banner a lot more than I would have otherwise. They believe that belief in repeated pulls is going to be overwritten by, oh my god, it's Cloud! Oh, take my Mithril! Alright, so that's banner 2.